4.5 stars from 1,708 ratings looks like a safe buy, until you notice one category owners split almost perfectly on: functionality. That split is the whole story of the Sony Alpha a6000. Owners keep praising the photos, size, and speed, but the downside is not image quality. It is whether the camera and included lens behave reliably for the buyer who receives it. Here is the product in its cleanest form: a compact Sony body, the 1.6, 50mm power zoom lens, and a front marked APS-C in the product photos. The appeal is obvious before you even talk specs. It looks like a serious camera without the bulk of a heavy SLR kit. On paper, the big promise is simple: 24.2 to 24.3 megapixels, Sony E-mount lens compatibility, hybrid autofocus, and up to 11 frames per second. Those numbers matter because this is positioned as a step up from a phone or point-and-shoot, not a toy. The lens in the photos is the E3.5 to 5.6 Power Zoom 16 to 50 OSS kit lens. That matters because several owners like the small travel setup, but the same lens also appears inside some of the functionality complaints. So the kit lens is both part of the charm and part of the risk. The feature that gives the a6000 its staying power is speed. Hybrid autofocus with 179 phase detection points and 25 contrast detect points is not just spec sheet decoration. Owners specifically call out quick focus, tracking, and action shots that stay in focus. This is where short motion footage makes sense. The a6000 was built for quick reactions, not slow menu admiration. When owners praise it, they are usually talking about the camera getting out of the way fast enough for travel, kids, hikes, and everyday shots. I like that the design still feels camera-like. The top dial, mode dial, shutter button, and compact grip all show a body made for people who want manual control eventually, but do not necessarily want a huge DSLR hanging off their wrist. The second big owner theme is image quality. There are 234 mentions of image quality with the feedback heavily positive. The recurring sentiment is not just that photos are acceptable. Owners describe DSLR quality pictures from a body they actually carry. That is the practical win. A camera can have impressive specs and still stay home because it is too annoying to pack. The a6000 gets praised because owners say it is light, compact, and travel-friendly enough to bring on hikes and vacations. The tilting screen is another visible reason beginners and travelers like it. The rear photos show the LCD pulled out, which gives you more flexibility than a fixed screen when shooting low angles, awkward framing, or quick casual clips. But here is where the review gets more interesting. Ease of use is praised, while complexity still shows up in the owner voice. In plain English, beginners can get great results, but the camera has enough menus and features that it rewards patience. A very common owner story sounds like this: "I did not know much about cameras, but this one helped me learn." That is a strong sign for a first real camera. It is approachable enough to start with, and deep enough that you do not instantly outgrow it. Compared with the usual step-up choices, the a6000 lands in a specific lane. It gives you more image quality and lens flexibility than a point-and-shoot, while staying much easier to carry than the heavy SLR-style cameras owners say they wanted to avoid. The 11 frames per second burst rate is one of those specs that still feels meaningful. For family action, pets, street moments, or travel scenes, it gives you more chances to catch the frame instead of relying on one perfectly timed press. The rear controls also tell you this is not a stripped-down beginner box. You can see dedicated buttons, the control wheel, AEL, FN, ISO, display controls, and playback. That is good if you want control, but less good if you hate learning menus. Midway through, the verdict is not simply buy or skip. The real question is whether the strengths are worth the functionality risk. Stay with that because the warning changes who I think should actually buy this kit. Now let the owner data breathe. Camera quality gets 279 mentions, with 255 positive and 24 negative. That is a huge signal. The most repeated praise is that the camera feels like a serious upgrade without becoming a heavy, intimidating setup. And the product photos support that owner feeling. The pop-up flash, built-in electronic viewfinder, compact grip, and small zoom lens all point toward a camera meant to travel light while still giving you real camera controls. Value for money is also mostly positive in the data, with 66 positive mentions out of 80. That does not mean the current $958.62 price is automatically a steal. It means owners judge the camera by the pictures and flexibility they get back. Here is my take. I would not buy it just because the model name is famous. I would buy it only if the exact listing condition, included lens, and return window makes sense, because the owner praise is strong but the failure reports are too specific to ignore. The complaints concentrate around functionality. The data shows 85 mentions, with 43 positive and 42 negative. That is unusually balanced. Some owners say it works incredibly well. Others report camera errors, unrecognized lenses, or a lens that did not work as expected. This is why the cable photo matters as a visual reset, not because it proves a performance claim, but because the box includes a micro USB cable and the camera clearly supports a small, practical travel workflow. Convenience is real, but reliability still has to check out. Autofocus is another split, though more positive overall. Out of 66 mentions, 48 are positive and 18 negative. Owners praise quick focus and tracking, but a smaller group reports focus issues, especially when expectations get more demanding. So here is the paid-off warning. Do not treat this like a sealed, risk-free impulse buy. The biggest non-advertised issue is functionality inconsistency, especially around the lens and error behavior. If the seller or condition is vague, I would slow down. Before the verdict, there are 4 things I would want every buyer to know. First, the battery is rated up to 360 still images. Second, the kit lens is compact. Third, the menu system can take learning. Fourth, owner functionality reports are mixed. The tilted rear screen also reminds you who this camera serves best. It is not trying to be a giant professional rig. It is a compact, interchangeable lens camera for people who want better photos, more control, and a setup they will actually bring along. The Week 2 test, based on owner patterns, is not whether the first photo looks sharp. It is whether the camera keeps working smoothly, whether the lens communicates properly, and whether you are willing to learn the controls instead of staying in automatic forever. If you are coming from a phone or point and shoot, the a6000 makes sense because owners repeatedly describe it as a real upgrade that is still easy to carry. If you are buying mainly for video or you need zero setup friction, the owner data is less convincing. My verdict: the Sony Alpha, a6000, is still compelling for travel shooters, first real camera buyers, and anyone who wants strong photos in a compact E-mount body. But I would only buy this kit from a seller where the lens condition and return policy are crystal clear. If you already own one, comment whether your 1.6 50mm lens stayed reliable after a few months. And if you are deciding between this kind of compact mirrorless setup and a heavier SLR-style camera, that comparison is the next one to watch.